I have no intention of explaining how the correspondence which I now offer to the public fell into my hands. There are two equal and opposite errors into which our race can fall about the devils. One is to disbelieve in their existence. The other is to believe and to feel an excessive and unhealthy interest in them. They themselves are equally pleased by both errors and hail a materialist or a magician with the same delight. The sort of script which is used in this book can be very easily obtained by anyone who has once learned the knack, but disposed or excitable people who might make a bad use of it shall not learn it from me. Readers are advised to remember that the devil is a liar. Not everything that Screwtape says should be assumed to be true, even from his own angle. I have made no attempt to identify any of the human beings mentioned in the letters, but I think it very unlikely that the portraits, say, of Friar Spike or the patient's mother, are wholly just. There is wishful thinking in hell as well as on earth. In conclusion, I ought to add that no effort has been made to clear up the chronology of the letters. Number 17 appears to have been composed before rationing became serious. But in general, the diabolical method of dating seems to bear no relation to terrestrial time, and I have not attempted to reproduce it. The history of the European War, except insofar as it happens, now and then, to impinge upon the spiritual condition of one human being, was obviously of no interest to Screwtape. C.S. Lewis, Magdalen College, July 5th, 1941.
Welcome to Iron by Iron. I'm Jace, and I'm with my co-host Sam, and we are going through the Screwtape Letters. And we figured we'd listen to the preface today, and we'd maybe give a little bit of our own preface about why we're choosing to do this.
Yeah, so Screwtape obviously is written by C.S. Lewis, and it's one elder demon teaching his young nephew the ropes of how to tempt a man or try to keep him from the faith. And super helpful day-to-day life. You know, we wage war not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers. And so we thought it'd be fun just to go through. There's 31 of these. And just go through them one by one and listen to them. I think a lot of the fruit's going to be right there. Lewis is a pretty incredible writer. And then just kind of go over it about how it applies to our lives in our modern day.
Yeah, I think Screwtape Letters, we were actually reading some of these, and it definitely does apply to modern day and modern life. We were reading just the other, was it last week, I think, going through some of these, and we stopped and we paused and we had a pretty good conversation about modesty in response to one of his letters. And it covers so many different areas. Lewis did this amazing job through these 31 letters and the toast that we're going to be going through in the preface of getting all of this wisdom in there. And he did it in a really satirical, entertaining, hopefully we can convey some of that entertainment to you as we do our best at amateur voice acting. No promises that you enjoy it, but we're doing it because we want to stretch ourselves, do something a little bit different. But we'll be each playing Screwtape for various letters, and we'll be putting it into a soundscape that is hopefully entertaining for you.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. We've brought up like subjects just to chat about, and then that later that night or something we'll be recording one. We're like, oh dang, Lewis, 1941. He actually had something to say about that. It's like human nature doesn't change too much, even though our surroundings have changed a lot, culturally speaking, to some degree. But yeah, so Lewis wrote this book. He dedicated it. I heard he came out of a church service, and this idea was just in his head. I believe it was Douglas Gresham, his son, that I heard said he was like sitting through a super boring sermon, and instead of wasting his time, he actually was like, all right, well, it's gonna waste time. Let's do something with this. And he actually starts jotting down this idea, like, okay, we have this older demon who is gone through the ropes and he knows how to do everything, and he's teaching his young naive nephew how it's done. And it was published first in a newspaper, correct?
Yeah, first in newspapers.
Yep. And then later collaborated into a book, which he then dedicated to J.R.R. Tolkien, which sounds nice because those two were friends. And Tolkien actually had a pretty big influence on how Lewis even came to faith to begin with. But Tolkien did not appreciate it so much because he knew the price it took for Lewis to do this. It was rough. having to put his head into that mindset of the diabolical, right? I think it took like 6 months for him to write.
I mean, if you're thinking newspaper once a week, 31 weeks, that's well over half a year.
Yeah, to be able to be trying to think from that angle. So I'm sure Lewis meant it kindly towards Tolkien. Tolkien didn't really take it all that nicely. But so Lewis, when he starts out his book, we already read the preface for you. But interestingly enough, before that, he has 2 quotes before even the preface. And one is from Martin Luther and the other one is from Thomas More. Luther's quote is, "The best way to drive out the devil, if he will not yield to texts of the scripture, is to jeer and flaunt him, for he cannot bear scorn." And then Thomas More says, "The devil, the proud spirit, cannot endure to be mocked." So kind of lays foot a little bit. I think it's Lewis. Maybe that's why there's some pretty funny humor in here, where he wants to bring out the diabolical schemes of the enemy, but he actually shows them for the kind of laughing stocks that they truly are, right? Like he shows you why they're effective in our life, and then he also shows you how paper thin they are and how it takes but just like a breath of wind and they all fall apart because they're all built on like lies. They serve the father of lies.
Yeah, they can't make a single virtue in hell, but they've been trying for a really long time, and the enemy somehow always thwarts them.
Right, they can't make a virtue, so they can only like try to twist what's already here. So yeah, look forward to spend the next 31 episodes going through these and talking through them.
Now, these will be interspersed between like regular episodes for us, right? We're going to do these kind of once a week is the current plan, and then do our a little bit more in-depth stuff kind of every other week sort of a deal is where we're at. So you'll have a consistent feed of Screwtape Letters. And then if you find these conversations interesting, we're going to be hitting a lot of these way more in depth in our one-on-one conversations that we have, where we bring in other resources other than just a C.S. Lewis book, and we'll have some other things prepared for you. Remember, if you want to refine your life, choose to refine your faith.